a lot of times when we're talking about, how we build collections, how we make collections decisions, this is typically what other people think is going into these decisions. When I talk to many people in higher ed, heck, when I talk to some people in my own libraries, these are the constraints that they think we're working within. So we're interested in content, and that budget is our constraint for what we can and cannot add. And those are the two factors that go into making our decisions. But that this is not what I see as sort of our reality for what goes into these decisions. It looks a little more like this, and I will admit, I actually threw a few of these in as my colleagues were talking during the last few minutes, because I think, this list could be even more expanded if I were really to think long and hard about absolutely every piece that goes into these collections decisions and how we choose and how we're restricted in building our collections. So from content, which is obviously a very important part of how we go about making these decisions. And then including budget, and we spent quite a bit of time talking about collection or content and budget and with our first presenter, but also access models. Do they work with our technology? Do they work with things that we can and cannot provide? Are they formats that work for us? Are they formats that don't? Do they work with our other systems? Do they work with our ILS? Do they work with our discovery layers? What can we do with the content once we have it? In academic libraries, we're not just concerned about consumption of the content, we're also concerned about what can be done with that content, how we can reuse it, how we can shape new knowledge and produce new scholarship out of it. Is it accessible? Does it meet the needs of all of our patrons? I do see that there's a question that, will I share my slides? And yes, I will absolutely get them posted right after this session. And I apologize that they weren't there before the session began. Privacy, what are we doing in our contracts and in our collections decisions to ensure privacy of our patrons? From things to space, I mean, does it help our space issues? Does it not? Can we access these items perpetually? In academic libraries, we work with some different ebook models than our first presenter explained. We're typically not seeking 2-year access. We are seeking perpetual access for ebook content, but that's not always available to us. And just how much labor goes into these decisions, and to maintenance of the resources and maintenance of the resources after we've decided to acquire them. So really, I'm just trying to argue that we have a lot more that we're sort of taking into the mix that most of us are familiar with.